across America tonight. Day 20 of the war in the Gulf. There's an airstrike a minute over Iraq and Kuwait. Is Saddam now hiding planes and troops near schools and mosques? Will this affect the Allies' pledge not to bomb civilians? How will the war affect your taxes, your job? There's a new federal budget out. Threats, bombings, and worse. Anti-Arab sentiment is on the rise in the U.S.
They call me a sand nigger. Go back to your Saddam. You Arabs all no good. Go back where you came from.
From CBS News, this is America Tonight, with Charles Carrault in New York and Leslie Stahl in Washington.
Good evening. Iran offered to mediate between Iraq and the United States today, but nobody seemed to pay the offer any attention. The war went on. Allied planes attacked Baghdad hundreds of times from midnight till dawn, and the big guns of the battleship Missouri rained one-ton shells on Iraqi troop positions in Kuwait. It was another day of merciless pounding, expressed in numbers at today's military briefing.
Let me tell you that in the last 24 hours, with 9 countries involved, we have flown over 2,700 sorties.
You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs. You can't fly a sortie without breaking some heads. In one of last night's 2,700 flights, a British bomber targeted a bridge over the Euphrates River. The bridge was neatly destroyed. By the way, were there any civilian cars on the bridge at the time? We were too far up to see. We are always too far up in the pictures from the air to see shrapnel flying into human beings or to hear the screams.
We will continue to scrupulously adhere to our policy is that we will not target civilian areas.
There is no reason to doubt that the targets are all military. This isn't World War II, when both sides went after civilians on purpose. In this war, only the Iraqis are trying to do that. But when you get out of the air and down on the ground, it's clear enough that Allied bombs have hit innocent people's houses and have killed and maimed innocent people. Iraqi TV is selective in what it shows us, but its claim of 320 civilians killed so far and 400 wounded is not beyond reason. Reporters asked General Robert B. Johnston about that today.
With the amount of bombing that has been going on, is it possible that there would not have been one mistake?
Well, I would never say never, but I think it's unlikely. Again, I will go back to a point I will continue to make, that we try to use the right kind of weapon system to attack those targets that would present the potential for collateral damage to civilian communities. So even our weaponeering is designed to avoid civilian casualties.
But evidence of civilian casualties is mounting. Some of the worst casualties along the highway from Baghdad to Jordan, which refugees have to use to reach safety. That road is littered with burnt-out civilian cars and trucks, and civilian corpses, too. 17 refugees were killed in one bombing attack. Today, UN Secretary General Perez de Cuellar criticized the Allies for bombing civilians on that road. General Johnston said the Iraqi military is intentionally mingling its forces with civilians.
We believe that they are starting to move those into the civilian areas for the very reasons that we're not targeting civilian areas as a part of our air campaign.
Schoolhouses and churches and civilian neighborhoods can hold only so many soldiers, of course. Iraqis in open and in uniform are being killed as fast as the Allies can do it, and some who are not in uniform, too.
Should Allied bombers avoid striking at a military target if it's anywhere near a residential neighborhood? Joining us, Congressman Lee Hamilton of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, our military people tell us that military commanders in Iraq have moved in, as Charles says, into schools and mosques. They say that military equipment is being moved in civilian convoys along roads. They say airplanes are being hidden in residential neighborhoods. Given all of that, because part of this war is political, aiming for public opinion, should we avoid any target that's near people?
I think we have to go after the military targets. I think our commanders are right when they say they do not intend to target civilians. That's the proper stance. We like to think that every bomb hits just like those pictures on television suggest that they do, right at the crosshairs, right on target. But not all bombs do, and you're going to have some civilian casualties. But I don't have any doubt about the intent of our commanders. They're trying very hard to avoid civilian casualties.
Well, no one is doubting that.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you are going to strike military targets that are in the middle of cities, you can expect to have that kind of damage. But you think we should continue to go after the targets in the middle of cities?
If it's a significant military target that has the potential to do a lot of damage to us, to our forces, then I think you're probably going to have to go after those targets.
Now, what about that road between Baghdad and Amman, where the Jordanian oil truckers were killed? Our State Department says, well, they're breaking the embargo. Why go after that road when we can be hurt politically for the deaths on that road?
Well, I don't know the details of that particular bombing raid, but if it's going after civilians who are fleeing the country trying to get out, if you're talking about a small amount of oil or so, I would think you could pass that target by. That would not seem to me to be a militarily significant target.
So avoid it when you can, but if it's major,
absolutely. You're going to have to do what you need to do to win this war.
Even if we get hurt politically because Saddam Hussein can demonstrate that innocent lives are being lost, including children's.
Well, I think there may be some political damage that falls out, but you cannot pass up significant military targets, I don't believe.
Let me switch the subject. Iran, trying to mediate now between Iraq and the United States. What do you think they're up to?
Oh, I think they're playing a very cagey game. The Iranians want to come out of this war with neither the United States nor Iraq in a position of power. They want to come out to help themselves. They're in a very important position here. Their two enemies are fighting. The great Satan on the one hand, that's the United States, and Saddam Hussein on the other hand. And they want to come out with their own position enhanced, and neither one of us, neither Iraq or the United States, looking tall.
But you know, the Iraqi deputy foreign minister was in Tehran right before Iran made the offer. The Kuwaiti deputy foreign minister was in Tehran right before. And now we see the Soviet deputy foreign minister is going to Tehran tomorrow. Do you smell a deal?
I think there's a lot of activity taking place now, searching hard for a way to end this war. I don't know whether the deal is in the making or not. It would seem to me there would have to be a significant concession by Iraq before you have the makings of a deal. But the longer the war goes on, the more the casualties are incurred, then I think you're going to see an intensification of activity to stop it.
Should we not hold out any kind of incentive for him to come along and make a compromise here? I ask that because some people feel that it would be better to have him in power, weakened without his military machine, than to totally destroy him or get him out, remove him, and leave Iraq in total chaos in a succession battle.
Well, I very much agree with that. I think U.S. interests are to have an Iraq that is not strong enough to be an aggressor after this war, but is strong enough to defend itself. I think U.S. interests are that we should have a balance of power in that region. I don't agree with those who think you ought to level Baghdad or destroy Iraq totally. I don't think that's in the long-range interest. Well, we're not out to do that. That's not a part of our policy today, and I don't think it should be.
Okay. Congressman Hamilton, thank you.
Thank you.
Charles.
Well, the Congress received President Bush's proposed budget today, record deficit and all. We'll look at the budget when we come back. And bigotry on the home front. All you have to do to feel it is have an Arab name.
Now learn to read with Hooked on Phonics. Because Hooked on Phonics is set to music, the right and left brain work together with dramatic reading results. After learning one 18-minute lesson, it's possible to read book one, over 120 pages. So for the beginner or anyone needing reading help, get Hooked on Phonics. and learn to read. Call 1-800-ABCDEFG. 1-800-ABCDEFG.
It's not easy to pull yourself away from a boat.
English.
Do you know how to spot trends in stocks?
And what stock options are.
And zero coupon bonds?
And the difference between Treasury bills and Treasury notes. Everything you want to know about the sometimes baffling world of money and investing is in this remarkable 120-page book. And now it's yours free when you subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. Call now and you can have 13 weeks of the Wall Street Journal and this valuable 120-page guide to understanding money and markets. That's 13 weeks of the Journal for the news and ideas you need every business day. And this guide free, which tells you everything you want to know about money and markets, all for only $37, a 24% savings off the newsstand price. Call now, toll-free, 800-227-3400. That's 800-227-3400 for today's Wall Street Journal.
Wednesday, battered women who kill.
And then I fired the gun.
Should they go free? Till death do us part. 48 hours. Then, a surprise reunion puts Jake's family in jeopardy.
I'm not a bad guy. I'm your father.
Can Jake protect them from his father's mistake? Jake and the Fat Man after 48 hours, Wednesday.
Shrewd bank robbers lure a rookie cop to the brink of death.
I was pinned down with 2 armed criminals trying to shoot me.
And all new Top Cops on a special night in time, Wednesday.
The war in the Gulf will be costly, even if America's allies kick in all they say they will. But President Bush unveiled his new budget today with only $15 billion for the war. There was a sense of deja vu, another whopping record deficit, $318 billion, more than 3 times what Mr. Bush projected just a year ago. There's no call for new taxes this time, but a big budget fight is all but inevitable anyway. The president wants more money for the war on drugs, space exploration, education, and highway construction, but he wants to pay for that by cutting Medicare, farm subsidies, student loans, and child nutrition. And he's asking again for a cut in capital gains taxes. Joining us, Senate Budget Chairman James Sasser. Senator, there doesn't seem to be the usual rosy scenario games that we've seen with budgets over the past 10 years. But this administration does say that they expect the recession to be over by summer and the war in the Persian Gulf to be over in 3 months. And they've made their assumptions based on those 2 calculations. Is there some kind of rosy projection based on those?
Well, I think the administration is being very optimistic in saying that this recession will be over by this summer. Undoubtedly, with regard to the economy, they're taking the best case scenario, and they may be very optimistic in saying this war will be concluded in 2 or 3 months. And then what after the war? If we maintain 50 to 100,000 troops to occupy areas in the Middle East, that's going to cost a lot of money.
And that's not in there?
That's not in there. And then also we have the problem and the question of what kind of demands are Turkey, Israel, Egypt going to make on us after this war is concluded by way of foreign aid payments and reimbursements, and then what kind of payments may we have to make to assist in rebuilding Iraq.
Now, one of the strictures placed on everybody in the budget is the budget agreement. And in order for the administration to increase funding for any one program, they have to cut funding in another program. Now, they want to add money for space programs and for the Super Collider, and in return, they want to cut Medicare, farm programs, and student loans, but they're going to do it by cutting back on these loans that, or subsidies that go to wealthy people. And they're saying that's part of the fairness issue. How do you respond to that?
Well, the administration is cutting about $25 billion out of Medicare over a space of 5 years. Now, a small portion of that, about $2 to $3 billion over 5 years, results from savings by which they means test Medicare. That is, make people above a certain level, in this case about $100,000, pay a substantial part of their own Medicare benefits. But the remainder of those savings, the lion's share of it, $22 to $23 billion, results from making cuts to teaching hospitals, making other types of cuts to hospitals that principally service very poor or lower middle class people in the urban areas. So there are some cuts in Medicare that really go to the quick, I think, and hurt the average American.
What do you think they're up to? Is this, as some people have suggested, a political document, something the president can run for president on in '92 and sort of draw lines between himself and the Democrats and align himself with the conservatives in his party?
Well, I said that I thought this budget said more about the State of the Union than the President's State of the Union message. And in this budget, he is trying to establish some differences and assign some priorities. For example, he's pushing once again for a capital gains tax cut in this budget, which actually is a revenue loser and principally advances the economic interest of the very wealthy in our society.
Let me ask you a final question. Going after the president during this war, he's so popular. It's a very difficult task for you Democrats to attack him for anything at this point, isn't it?
Well, I think Democrats and the American people all support the efforts of the armed forces, but the polls are indicating, and I think the average man in the street and woman in the street would tell you that we've got very serious problems here at home, and they want to hear Democrats and others speak out on the long-neglected domestic needs and what we're going to do about resolving these problems, and I think they hold the president responsible for some of these problems that have not been addressed.
Okay, Senator Sasser, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Charles?
A visit to Toledo when we come back to see the war through the eyes of some Americans, Arab Americans.
During the course of one 60-minute workout, a body can be depleted of vitamins B6 and C, carbohydrates, and valuable potassium, all of which, it so happens, can be replaced by eating one Chiquita banana. So whatever you put out, put back. Chiquita, quite possibly the world's perfect food.
Ooh, I love the taste of crab delights from Lewis Kemp. Crab delights tonight. It's a seafood paradise. Crab delights tonight.
Crab delights from Lewis Kemp. So easy, so delicious, right out of the package in your favorite dish.
Can't help this love of mine. Now I have seafood anytime.
Now you can enjoy the great taste of lobster tonight with Lobster Delights from Lewis Kemp.
Tomorrow, the war in the Gulf continues as the world anxiously watches. Who will claim victory in the day's battles? Is there any plan for peace that could put an early end to the fighting? The latest developments on the front lines and updates from around the world tomorrow on a special edition of the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Two women caught in the rapids of Niagara Falls, headed for disaster.
There's no chance of getting out of the water. They were gonna die.
A heroic rescue 911, Tuesday.
America Tonight will continue.
I was always covering for him, to his boss, bill collectors, friends. He tried to get help over and over. He quit for a while, but it didn't last. And I didn't want to put him in some depressing institution. And then I heard about High Point.
High Point offers inpatient as well as outpatient treatment for the chemically dependent adult and adolescent.
High Point. It worked for us, and it can work for you.
The road to recovery begins at High Point.
Do you need advice about love, romance, and the future of your relationships? Call the Tarot line at 1-900-535-TAROT and get the answers you need now. The Tarot line is not a computer and not a tape. It's your own personal tarot reading, live, one-on-one by authentic psychic readers who will help you find the answers you need from the privacy of your own home. Your personal tarot reading is just a phone call away at 1-900-535-TAROT. Call now and receive your very own personal power crystal. The charge for this call is $2.95 per minute, and you must be 18.
WD brand, a symbol of quality uncompromised from the beef people. And during Winn-Dixie's Beef Roundup, get great savings on your favorite cuts of beef, like a WD brand boneless bottom round roast for just $2.17 a pound. The super brand flavor of the week is Neapolitan, just 98 cents. Limit one, please. And for home delivery, call Shoppers Express. Winn-Dixie. Low prices nobody can beat. Nobody.
If you set out to look for a neighborly place in America, you might settle on Toledo, Ohio. People from every sort of background live together very peaceably in Toledo. But lately, the FBI has been in town asking certain of those people direct questions.
They have something in the back of their mind they want to ask you. It says, do you know of a certain organization? Then they ask if you know of a certain individual. Well, this question, political question, we feel is out. They have no business whatsoever.
That's Hussein Shalsher, who doesn't like the government sticking its nose into his business, a very American attitude. When Hussein Shalsher prays, he does so as a Muslim and as an American. His father came from South Lebanon to South Dakota in 1902. Hussein runs the downtown variety store with his brother Yahya. Everybody in Toledo calls them Sam and John. They are Americans, and they're worried.
We are scared. Arab Americans are terrorized by what's going on in the country.
They have seen on television the strident demonstrations. They have seen the broken windows and the burned-out Arab American stores in California, Florida, and Michigan.
We, in Toledo, we thought we were immune of that because we have a good community, and we are very fortunate to live in Toledo, but seems to be we're not immune.
Ibrahim Ismail, at work in his popular restaurant, certainly thought he was immune to bigotry, even after he got the letter.
You have been chosen to be the first Arab to be blown away in Toledo.
Then came the hole in his restaurant window, right above the "We Support Our Troops" sign.
Sometimes I don't answer the phone because I know it's them.
Nobody in Toledo is standing up in broad daylight and slurring Arab Americans.
Now
they do it in the night, on the phone.
When they threaten me, I'm afraid. When they threaten me, they say, if we don't leave the country, they want to kill us.
Automatically, the American people, when you say an Arab, he becomes a Muslim, and a Muslim becomes an Arab, and you talk about an Arab, he becomes a terrorist.
I'm American. I'm proud of my heritage. I'm from Lebanese ancestry, and I'm a normal human being like everybody else.
Arab Americans, having chosen the home of the brave, see no reason to be cowardly now that there's a war on. In Toledo, many of them oppose the war and are not afraid, as Americans, to say so.
I don't support Saddam, no, I support Bush. Going to save Kuwait for what? Destroy it and save it? And kill people?
I hate to see any one drop of American blood wasted in that area over there.
Does that sound like disloyalty to you? Then these Americans understand America better than you do.
We are as much loyal to this country more than the FBI themselves. And our loyalty should never be questioned.
Toledo City Hall announced last week that harassment of Arabs or Jews will lead to quick prosecution. There have been about 2 bomb threats a day at City Hall since the announcement. Leslie and I will be right back.
Potpourri! But we're more than just potpourri. I'm the only potpourri carpet deodorizer with genuine Arm & Hammer baking soda to absorb odors and freshen naturally. And I'm the only air freshener with Arm & Hammer baking soda. The natural way to deodorize tough bathroom odors and make the air potpourri fresh. I freshen the carpet, and I freshen the air. Natural freshness from the baking soda experts.
Look at me, enjoying corn on the cob, thanks to Super Polygrip.
Super Polygrip forms a seal that holds so tight, many denture wearers can enjoy more of their favorite foods.
Even corn on the cob.
Super Polygrip.
Pain from just one sensitive tooth can start the domino effect. Pain can make you stop brushing, lead to plaque buildup, gingivitis, periodontal disease, even tooth loss. Sensodyne toothpaste helps stop the pain and the domino effect.
America Tonight will continue.
Sometimes we all need a friend to talk to. And now there's a phone number for you to call when you need to talk to that certain someone. Anytime, 24 hours a day. Perhaps you're looking for advice or a woman's point of view. Or maybe you just need to hear a soft, smiling voice. This is one-to-one conversation, and it's live. So what are you waiting for? Pick up your phone and let me be your friend on the other end. Call now.
$2.99 per minute.
Bounty means never having to say,
I'm sorry. So sorry.
even for the worst spills.
Sorry. I'm sorry. So sorry. So sorry.
Bounty's quicker and thicker than any other national 2-ply paper towel. Bounty, the quicker, thicker picker-upper. Bounty means never having to say your
Everybody needs to have that one special, comfortable place where you can go just to be yourself. Everybody needs to have that one special person who'll accept you just for you. That place is here. That person is me, and I'll talk to you live, one-on-one, anytime you want. Kick back, relax, be yourself. As long as I'm here, you'll never be alone. So pick up your phone and call me right now.
$2.50 per minute. Adults only.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, a bill goes to Congress that would defer tuition payments and loans for reservists called up for the war. President Bush will announce his plans to reform the troubled banking system, including limits on deposit insurance. And tomorrow, Queen Elizabeth will pocket a cool $3.6 million. She earns that much every day in interest, according to the magazine Harper's and Queen. It reports that she's the world's wealthiest woman with total assets of $13 billion. Says Buckingham Palace, grossly exaggerated.
Iraqis and Americans just talk different, that's all. Baghdad Radio said today that this war is the crime of the age being perpetrated by the United States and all of its allies who are standing with it in the trench of vice and debauchery. The Voice of America doesn't have a single writer who can write like that. The Iraqi broadcast called on Iraqi armies to sever necks from shoulders to avenge the hair of every Iraqi girl who was stained with her own blood. Iraqi armies, the radio said, are awaiting a signal for a crushing and devastating offensive. However the shooting war turns out, Iraq wins the rhetorical war. No competition. Good night, Leslie.
Night, Charles. Night, everyone.
Later on Night Watch.
It's a price of doing business in combat. You have to recognize that it's there.
Friendly fire. That story and more on CBS News Night Watch.